All for being here. Means a lot. Clearly, you all are the desirer of having Lord Krishna in your heart. Otherwise, there's so many other places you could have been. So this is also called austerity, right? So thank you for being here. We'll be reading from very nice chapter, which is chapter 9, and I'll be doing verse 9:15 today. And we'll explain, it'll be interactive. I'm going to ask you questions, if that's all right, because the whole idea is that we all need to understand and take something away that would make a difference to our lives, right? I'm here today, but not so long ago, I was there as well. So you can imagine, everything and anything is possible if I'm here. So there's no reason why all of you can't be here next time in next few years to come. All right, so we'll start off by, they say Guru Bina Gati Nahi, and we do pranams to elders in our Vedic culture. When you get up in the morning, you do peripena to your adult, elders, or good morning, or namaste, however you say it. But let's just start by respecting Shishi Radha Gokulananda and Srila Prabhupada, who, sacrificed everything he had so that we could actually get to read details in Bhagavad Gita ourselves. So let's just remember our ancestors, our gurus, our Lord Krishna, and pass our respect. So I'll sing once, and if you would please repeat, because that'll be my chance to hear and purify myself. So no laziness here, please. Everybody has to sing. And don't think who's going to hear me, because who are we doing it for? We're not doing here to get medals or anything like that. We're doing it because we want to please. Who's there on the altar? What's his name? Yes, but he has a name. Shishi Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan Ji Ki Jai. Okay. So traditionally they sing Jai Radha Madhav, so we'll just do that. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari. You can do it. Good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandan Braj Janaranjana. Yashodanandan Braj Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Banchari. Jamuna Tira Banchari. Jamuna Tira Banchari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. नंद राधे। जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान, सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान। जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय, जय गौरानिताय। जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। बोलो श्री श्री राधा गोकुलानंद भगवान जी की। Thank you so much. So let's just get some formalities out of the way. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today's verse is 9.15, as I mentioned, not what it says CC Madhya 11.1. That must be from this morning. And unfortunately, I don't know the technical system here. If anyone knows, please feel free to change that for the verse that we're going to be reading today. So I'm just going to read Sanskrit one time, and then we'll just go on to English, because just like you, I'm very scared of Sanskrit. And it's not the right thing to do. But your mom knows Sanskrit? Very nice, very nice. But I don't, unfortunately. I did study when I was little, but it's all gone. You know, if you don't practice it, that's it. But we will try, because this is Sanskrit. And why do we want to try? We want to try because it's Krishna's words. Let's just try and attempt to recite, you know. Then we can see, we can at least taste the words that Krishna spoke once to Arjun, right? So that's our attempt. Don't worry too much. I'll explain in English, and everything else is going to be in English, so don't worry. So here it goes. Jnana yajnena chapi anye. Jnana yajnena chapi anye. Yajanto mam upasate. Ekatvena prithaktvena. Bahuda vishvasato mukham. Anyone want to recite behind me? Jnana yajnena chapi anye. Yajnena chapi anye. Yajanto mam upasate. Upasate means worship. Yajanto mam upasate. Ekatvena prithaktvena. Bahuda vishvasato mukham. One more time, please. Jnana yajnena chapi anye. Yajanto mam upasate. Ekatvena prithaktvena. Bahuda vishvasto mukham. So translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It says in English, others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form. So I'll just read a very small purport and then we will go on to explain. So then when we actually study anything in a group, it's so much easier to understand. If we try and study just by ourselves sometimes, it kind of goes over the head, right? So let's just quickly read the purport. Purport by His Divine Grace. This verse is summary of previous verses. The Lord tells Arjun that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Thank you very much, ladies. So, Mahatma's definition is being given here. The verse is the summary of previous verses. The Lord tells Arjun that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna is called Mahatma. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them have already been described as distressed. Now listen up, because I'm going to ask question on this here. There are 4 types Krishna is describing. So this is going to be your question answer. Some of them have already been described as the distressed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into 3. He who worships himself as one with Supreme Lord, he who concocts some form of Supreme Lord and worships that, and number 3, he who accepts the universal form of Vishwaroop of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and worships that. Out of above 3, the lowest, those who worship themselves as Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be the monist, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in the mentality they worship themselves. That is also a type of God worship. For they can understand that they are not the material body, but are actually spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of demigods, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of the material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also form of the Lord. So that's the purport. So we'll just do Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. So, we just read 4 types of people who come to temple. Before you go, do you want to tell me what kind of people come to temple? The 4 kinds that I read about? Yeah? Anyone?
Yeah, I can help you.
Yeah? Yeah, why don't you come here, Prabhu?
Oh, I can help you.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. So, one is distress. You want to say that?
So where have you come from today?
We're coming from St. Albans.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Lucky. Not so far off from temple, eh? And yes, Prabhuji is exactly right. Are you related?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, very nice. So yes, it's distressed. That was one, because people, when they've lost somebody and when they can't see anything else, people come to God, right? Right thing to do. He's the supreme. If people and friends can't help you, there is one person who can always help you. Who is that? Yeah? He's there on altar. So people, when they are distressed, they all come to temple. Then what's the other type? Anybody? Financially destitute, yes. So people who are poor perhaps, or people who are desire of wealth, artharthi. So people who want, maybe when they want to grow up, they don't want a small bungalow, they want a mansion, right? They want a Lamborghini, or they don't want a flat. If there's anybody like my son, the younger one, I say to him, you should save money and buy a flat or something for yourself. He's like coming up to his late 20s. He goes, Mom, I would rather buy a Ferrari. I said, where are you going to sleep? He goes, in Ferrari. So, people who want more money, what do? They also come to temple, right? We've all been there, isn't it? I used to come to have a prasad here. I used to love the prasad. They used to make in those days, they had very English touch to or Italian touch to the prasad that they used to give rather than just puri, rice and all that. So that, because background is Indian, so I used to cook Indian myself. So I used to come with little children, and we used to come to have English prasad, and then they would also do lots of cakes and stuff, and the Radharani bakery does lovely pizzas. So I used to bring kids. It's a day out. The difference is when you go to park and everything else, you do feel happy. But here you also get peace of mind when you come here, right? Is that why you guys come? Yes? Because it takes all the distresses. When you open the newspaper, open the television, it's doom, gloom. Somebody's done this, somebody's done that, and so on. And when you go to others, oh, she was saying this, or he was saying that. So all the mind is disturbed. But is that what we want for our mind? No. Because we want our mind to be peaceful. Why? Because if you want to do anything in your life, if you want to win your battles, you need to have a balanced, peaceful mind. Because that's why they say, isn't it, that lust, anger, greed, they are your worst three enemies, right? So there you go. So there's artha, artharthi. So artha is people who are distressed. Artharthi, desirer of wealth. Then the third type is? Yes, that's the fourth type, but very good. Inquisitive. And the fourth ones are people who are looking to have knowledge. Yes, so those are the type that Lord Krishna has already described in chapter 17 and 17 and text 16. If you actually I can read that out to you quickly. So those are the four types that come. And believe me, Krishna is not belittling us. He's just saying that those people are good. People who come to temple for those things. So please don't feel that we can't come to the temple. It's not like pure service, but, at the end of the day, if you want something, you're going to go to your father, right? So he is like our supreme father. But they say bhakti is something that they described about Mahatma. Remember I said they're given a description and definition of Mahatma. Mahatma is where his whole world is Krishna, right? He doesn't know anything else. I mean, we are far away from that sort of stage. So we don't want to take on false or hypocritical type of attitude and just pretend. We are where we are. It's good to know where we are. Because then you know the gap from here. If you need to jump there, if you know you are here, only then you can make up that difference. So no point pretending and in front of people. In the end, we want to impress Krishna. We don't care what our neighbor says or anybody else says, right? So so this is how it goes, that verse. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritano arjuna artho jigyasur artharthi Jnani cha Bharata Sabha. Oh, best among the Bharatas, the four kind of pious men begin. Pious men, make a note. People who are coming, pious men begin to render devotional service unto me, the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Not any other knowledge, because there's so many other things that you can Google search and do all of those things. But when you want to search about Krishna, there is no such knowledge that you can just search and it has to be felt. Devotional service, pure devotional service we need to go into. So from the four types they've described, then Krishna is saying, besides these four, guess what? There are three other types who are desirer of knowledge. And what are they? So then he goes on to describe. Any guesses? Yes, so there is a similar sort of thing, because Krishna is saying there is three letters, they've used three words, ekatvena, then they've mentioned pratakvena, and then they've put vishvato mukham. So that in English is worship of the universal form. So universal form is like, if we can't see Krishna by our eyes directly, think of all the other things there are here in material world. Who's made that? Krishna? Yes? Because, why we say Krishna? Because here Krishna is saying, Anyway, I will come to that verse in a bit. But basically, those are the people, they're the third type of people who actually worship Krishna in his form. Because they cannot relate themselves to Krishna's beautiful form, they then relate themselves to the Vishwaroop or the Virat Roop. We know what Virat Roop is? You know, the universal form of Krishna where he displays to Arjun what his actual form is, you know? So like that. So then there is another one that we talked about, is lowest among them is somebody called Ekatvan. And you were saying that people who think of themselves as most powerful, they may be, but they can't be as powerful as God. So they are the ones who believe themselves to be one with God, and they want to then worship themselves because they are part and parcel of God. So they're thinking, well, I am also God. So would you mind shutting that door for me, please? So they actually think that I am it. I mean, their thinking is little, you can understand their thinking to some extent, because we all know we've also got soul inside us. Because when the soul goes, even if the body is here, people say, oh, this is a dead body. The person's left this world, right? So body is not everything. We also know Krishna's put something inside our body that makes us alive, that makes us conscious, that makes us think, that makes us do all sorts of things. Because the same body, if we were this body, when some spark leaves this body, we shouldn't be dead. But we do. So what the Ekatvena people think of themselves as, although they know it's part and parcel of Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada gives the example of gold particle. So when there is a gold particle and say lots of gold, who's been to Dubai or Gold Souk? Anyone? So when you go there, there's gold just hanging from each and every shop. There's so much gold there. And if you compare that gold to the particle of God, qualitatively, would that be the same? Because chemistry-wise, if you think about it, the particle of gold and gold should be same. Yes? Because it's the same elements in there, right? But quantitatively, because that's one particle as compared to 100 kilos of gold there, it's not the same, is it? So that's what, this is where they fall down, these Ekatvena people, because they think, I am the Lord, I should worship myself, as opposed to think we should be worshipping Krishna. So those are the type, so that's one type, and this is the lowest of the three that we're going to be talking about. Then the second one is where they call it Prithaktvena. And in there, it basically says that they tend to worship anyone and everyone, lots of demigods, thinking somebody can be superior. They don't care. They don't want to know. They not really want to find out who is the supreme, because it suits them, because maybe they're lazy, I don't know what is it, because they're happy by just worshipping 10,000, like in our Hinduism, there's 33 crore Devi Devtas, like demigods and like goddesses. So how many will you be able to worship? You can't. You can only worship so many. So what they're saying is, like, these type of people, what they tend to do is they want to bear in mind that they are the actual, they can't be bothered to find out who's supreme. They just concoct some sort of thoughts in their mind, okay, this is going to be the supreme person, so let's just worship them, right? That's it. They worship for the sake of it. And I was listening to one of the lectures, and in there's Prabhuji, Gauranga Prabhuji. He's going to be coming here to give his lectures anyway. And in this respect, he said that these type of people, when they come to temple, they say, when you ask them, who you worshipping, they would just be like, look, we don't care, we worship everyone, they can decide amongst themselves who's higher, who's lower, right? That's their attitude, because they don't want to find out. in the end, all these demigods are also higher than us, right? But at the same time, we should know, are you related? You are? And his name is? Akhilesh. And where are you from? Aylesbury. Okay, not too far, but a bit further than some of the other places. What about you, Mataji? Where are you from? Essex. Oh, wow, all the way from Essex. So big round of applause. What about you guys? Where are you from? Huh? South Harrow. Okay, that's nice and near, right? I'm from sort of that area as well in Eastcote. So yeah, so the point I'm making is, if somebody comes to your house, should they make an effort to find out who's your dad? Or should they just give you all the respect that there's no harm in giving respect, but if there is a business that adults needs to do with dads, should they make an effort to find out who is an adult, who is the father, who is the son, or just give both of you whatever, and then that's it, doesn't really matter? That's the point we're making. With the Pratiktvenas, they just think of one person, concoct that he's going to be the Supreme Personality, and then just carry on worshipping him, which is no good, again. And the last one is the Vishvata Mukham. They worship the universal form. So, because they can't relate to, like I was mentioned earlier on, they can't relate to Krishna. Because people say, well, it's made up of stone. Why? So I want to tell you a story. So, who's heard of Narad Muni? Anyone? So there was a cobbler, or someone who wasn't very educated, someone who was just on the roadside in one of these places where he was just dealing with his day-to-day activities, yeah? And then there was one Brahmins. Now Brahmins, there's difference, Brahman and Vaishnavas. Krishna conscious people like to call themselves Vaishnavas, because Brahmins could be doing ritualistic things for sake of studying the Shastra, or because I'm born a Brahmin, but doesn't make you a Brahmin if you're just because you're born into. It's like we say doctor's son is not automatically going to be doctor's. Doctor's son has to work, gain that qualification, then he can. And anybody else who's studying in medical school can then, if do their exams properly, study properly, they have capability of becoming a doctor. Is that right? So it's not because you're born into something, hence the reason. It's because you've made that effort. You've put that hard work in. So Brahman was there, and Narad Muni was going past. So he just said to Brahman, oh, you know what? I'm going to go see the Lord today. Is there anything you want me to say to them? And Brahman says, yeah, please do. Just tell Lord Sri Krishna that I've been worshipping him and I've been looking after him. When is he going to, make me, when is he going to make me come to him, or make my life simple, or anything else that he wanted to ask, yeah? Then Narad Muni said, no problems, I'm going forward, I'll ask, and then I'll bring you his message back, okay? Then he goes on to a cobbler. So this cobbler, Narad Muni says, Narayan, Narayan, like he speaks, and you see all these ancient things in there. He says, I'm off to see Lord. Is there any message you want to give him? And he says, yes, please. Would you be kind enough to tell him my pranams and tell him that I'm worshipping him? And, that's it. And just let me know what he's doing, How is he and everything. So Narad Muni goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and asks him, I met two people. One of them was Brahman. He wanted to know what you do and how long is going to be for him and whatever he's asked for. He was asking what you do. So he said, okay, very nice. Then Narad goes about the cobbler, and he says to cobbler, about cobbler that this is the guy on the roadside, not very knowledgeable, not very learned, but he was also asking about you, but he's a good devotee of yours too. So what shall I say to them when I go back? Because I thought I was going to go and say, and they asked about you. So then before Narad leaves, Lord goes to him, okay, tell Brahmana and the cobbler this thing. Now, when I went to see Krishna, when I went to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, guess what he was doing? He was actually putting through elephant through the eye of a needle. Yes? We all confused, right? Elephant through the little eye of the needle. So Narad Muni looked exactly like your expressions, like how is that possible, right? And but anyway, he said, this is my message. Give it to Brahman first, and then to cobbler as well. So then he went to the Brahmana and said to him, look, I gave you a message, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead was happy and all of those blessings. And then he said, but he asked me to let you know. So he said, so what was Supreme Personality of doing? He said, oh, he was actually putting through an elephant through the eye of the needle. So Brahmana looks at him and he says, hang on a minute. That is not possible. I bet you have not seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That doesn't make sense, right? Just like us, we think like that as well. And then then Narad goes to the cobbler and he says, oh gosh, how are you? How was Lord Krishna? What was he doing? How is he? What did he give me any message? And he said, just to let you know that when I meant to see the Supreme Lord, he was actually putting an elephant through the eye of the needle. So he goes, Jai, like that, very excited. So Narad says, hang on a minute, why do you feel happy? Why are you saying Jai? So he goes, of course, anything is possible for the Supreme Lord. I don't need to worry about it. Anything is possible for the Supreme Lord. So then he looks perplexed and he goes, hang on a minute, look, I am sat under a big banyan tree, massive banyan tree. So I am sat here to earn my living every single day. I sit here to make something, sell it, and then take my money. This tree was put by the Lord in a small seed. The seed is so little, and yet, if Krishna can put a big, massive tree in the seed, and those seeds in the fruit, and then when you eat fruit, the seeds are gone again, and then another tree comes up, why can't he put elephant through the eye of the needle? Right? So it's just matter of faith. It's just matter of faith. So people say all sorts of things, when we come here, this is made up of, 5 metals, this, that, the other. But no, if you treat this personality as a person, this is what is the difference between Hare Krishnas and all the others, because we treat Radha Gokulananda ji as our deity. Because we know he's giving us chance to worship him through this form. But the more we become Krishna conscious, the more we become devoted, the more we become devotional service, we would realize ourselves little things that we think, oh my God, Krishna has done this, Krishna has done that, And this particular Srila Prabhupada's lecture was, this is again little topsy-turvy. When you are little, which class do you go to? Do you go to nursery or? Yeah, so she goes to nursery. What's your name? Lisha. And what about you? Do you go to school as well? Do you go to school? Good. What class are you in? Year 6. And are parents hoping that next year you'll be in year 7? Yes? So this is called the ascending school of education. Yeah? So with Vedic culture, we say it's descending knowledge, right? So what we say is, or Srila Prabhupada tells us that there is this knowledge. This particular chapter is called the most confidential knowledge. Yeah? It says the most confidential knowledge. Why? And this is such an important chapter because there are 18 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is the 9th chapter that we are talking about here. And why is it important? A, it's in the middle of all these chapters. And secondly, it's giving us text 1 to 3 talks about Raj Vidya, which is the king of education. Right? Why? Because it's saying, when you read up the little translations of the verses are basically saying, Krishna is saying to Arjun, because you are non-envious, I am imparting this special knowledge to you. So 1 to 3 covers that. And because this knowledge is so important, if we can apply it on ourselves, then irrespective of where we are, we're always going to be happy. Because we would have the understanding that what's happening is all to do with that personality over there, right? And then there is verses 4 to 10, in which Krishna is talking about his relationship with the material world. And in that, he's saying that material nature is working under him. So just like air. Now, who's felt the wind? Can you see the wind? Can you see the wind? You can't. Only when the trees or the leaves are moving, you feel, or when something touches your face and goes, then you realize, oh, there is wind, right? Or your hair flies, or your clothes fly but you can't really see wind, can you? But doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So Krishna is saying, just as in material nature exist, just like wind exists in the ether or under the sky, similarly, all the living beings, they actually are actually resting in me. So this is what Krishna is explaining in 4 to 10. Then he goes on to our part where we're studying today, 11 to 19, in which he's talking about worshippers and non-worshippers. And what is my point of talking about all of these various types of worshippers? The real thing that we want to do is Shri Shri Radha Gokulanand Bhagwan Ji ki, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki. So the real purpose of finding out today's verse is that we don't want to be impersonalist, we don't want to be demigod worships, we don't want to be just worshipping universal form of Krishna. We don't want to be doing praktaktena, we don't want to do ekatvena. Why? Because we already know those are the ones who, Krishna said, they come to temple, and then from there's 3 even more lower who are trying to get knowledge, but they're not very clear. It's like real hazy in their mind as to what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But what do we want to do? What we want to do is actually learn the science of God. We want to do that everyone can learn in college, like I mentioned. Everyone who goes there, puts in the work, can become Krishna conscious. Similarly here. And similarly, when we put our work and we start our relationship with Krishna, so there is an example of spark. Who's seen barbecues these days? Because, I think we've had 2 or 3 days of summer. Anybody just done their barbecue as yet? Or thinking maybe when there's bit better weather, then we will? Yeah? In barbecue, us Krishna conscious people can make the paneer tikka wrap or anything like that, yeah? But have you seen in coal, or when you see wood fire or anything, the spark, when it goes out of the fire, what happens? Have you seen a fire? It's dangerous, isn't it? Mom probably doesn't allow you to go near. But have you seen a fire anytime? What happens? When a little fire spark makes a sound and then comes out and falls, or the coal falls away from the fire, what happens? Yeah. So it becomes slowly, it loses its fiery quality. When it's fire, it's radiating heat, it's giving light, yes? When you guys do Diwali, when you do fireworks, what happens? The sparks which come through to the center, they're all nice, sparky, hot. But then anything that is just out, it slowly fizzles out, becomes gray and cold. It's not hot anymore to touch, or anything like. Slowly, the heat goes as well. But the same coal, if you pick it up and put it in the fire again, what happens? Does it start burning red hot again? Yeah, it does. If you put into heat, it automatically then takes the qualities of the fire. So similarly, when we are going to take our relationship with Krishna with little steps, and it all starts with hearing, which is all what you guys are doing here. You should give yourselves a round of applause, because a lot of people just leave when there's a lecture. And it's not their fault. Unless and until the heart gets purified, you would not want to hear. You want to think, oh, I've got so much to do. I need to go here, I need to go there. You're running around like a headless chicken. Exactly what happens, isn't it? Because we don't have that taste. Krishna's not given you that taste. But slowly, slowly, by hearing, when purifies their heart, the mind becomes alive. It wants to know about Krishna. It wants to hear about the qualities of Krishna, the names of Krishna, the mood of Krishna. And that's how one starts and think, okay, I now need to start reading, or I need to start hearing, because hearing is such a strong point to have. Like Srila Prabhupada says in his lecture that even if you don't know anything, it's like that cobbler. He didn't have any education. But what did he have? He had strong faith in Krishna. Yes? Even though he wasn't learned, he didn't probably have that much money or whatever else, but he had faith and he was happy. And he could relate to what's happening around him is Krishna's will. So similarly, for us, we need to start thinking that we need to spark that fire inside us by associating with the big fire, which is Krishna. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Like I mentioned about the gold particle, gold dust particle has got the same quality as that of 100 kilos of gold. Similarly, we're not God, but we are part and parcels of God. We all have soul in us, right? That's why we are not just this body. Have you heard? People always say, you are not this body. And you're just saying, hang on, I am this body, yes? But how? But you are not just this body, because I explained to you that, if the body is here, the spark goes out of our body, they call dead. It's like dead matter. So what is that spark? But that spark is the Paramatma sat inside our heart. Yes? So we all have the qualities of Krishna. All we need to do is fire it up. How do we fire it up? By hearing what? With the attitude, or hearing from submissively? What do you think? Does your teacher tell you when you're doing too many mistakes? Does he tell you off? Yeah? Does he want to really teach you something that he really knows is out of this world and you can pass all your exams if you're behaving really badly? Because if you're a good boy and you listen up in class and the teacher's teaching, she's thinking, hang on a minute, that's a very nice lady out here. Let me know she can hear very well. Let me try and give her some knowledge that she can use in her life to become whatever she wants to. She might want to be a policeman. She might want to be a medical staff. She might want to be a teacher. Who knows? Or she might want to be all of those things and a devotee of Krishna. The point is that when you please people, or when you behave in a nice way, people automatically want to give you the greatest wealth they have. Like gurus would want to give to disciples, like teachers would want to have their disciples or their students take up that knowledge so they can do well and get the job that they want. Get them prepared for these, red brick universities that they want to be in Oxford or Cambridge. But if you don't behave and if you don't cultivate that knowledge or relationship, why would teacher want to waste their time on you, right? So similarly, we also need to be in a submissive way approach through bona fide representatives like gurus. And this descending order I mentioned is this knowledge that we talked about, the most confidential. It comes in parampara. Who knows the English to parampara? In a cultural, traditional way, yeah? So when something is passed from generation to generation, that is, traditional, or that is when it's yeah. So in this case, we know in Bhagavad Gita, we know everything was started from sun god. Then Manu was sun god's son. So it was all given by hearing, just by hearing the knowledge. In olden days, this is how it used to be. They didn't have these pens, copies, these things to absorb everything, you know. They had great minds. They could just absorb a verse or whatever else was being taught. And then it became in generations. So then Ikshvaku. But then what happened is this knowledge, which has been coming in disciplic succession, this knowledge does not become or come to us if we are just trying to intelligently or just thinking, well, we can just absorb it just like that. But it comes with faith. Faith and mercy of the devotees of the Lord. So what do we want to do? Krishna is telling us there's 4 types of people who come to temple. Of course, we have to start somewhere. So whatever our reasons for coming to temple, great. At least we're in the right place. How are we going to make most of it now? We're going to make most of it by actually then our attitude and the mood, submissive mood, to then what? To learn. If we want to learn something, we need to be humble. We need to be understand that our guru has spent years. It's like, say, if you want to become a doctor, you would respect your lecturer because they have already done medicine, they've practiced it, they have had time to experience, and then from those experiences they've learned, and then they are trying to give you lectures, and they can solve all your problems. Any questions you ask, they can say. Similarly, these gurus, but not any guru. Here it says specifically, bona fide guru. Someone who is in disciplic succession. Not some guru who just wants to make money for themselves or just got their own ulterior motive. We have to be away from people like that. Because what Krishna is saying is we need to become pure devotee. If we're going to have association of somebody who is a meanie person or have got their own agenda, how are we ever going to then make it there? We're not. So we need a good guru or someone who is an expert. Or these devotees who have, given up their life, whatever else, so that they can broaden their world. They're not selfish. They're not just thinking, I, me, mine. These people, especially in orange robe, they've given up not given up, they also look after their families, but at the same time, they're giving their time to then make sure the whole world becomes their family by giving them knowledge with which they can then get yourselves out of this 4 things which nobody can overcome. No many scientists, and that's what? Birth, death, old age, and disease. So if one has disease, it goes away for a while. But what happens eventually? Birth, death, they say, janam, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Yeah? So those 4 things that we need to somehow or the other eventually transcend, come away from it, so that we can actually get ourselves on a path where we can be thinking and we can be becoming pure-hearted. We would want to do good for everyone without thinking about, hey, what's in it for me? Right? Then we come to Krishna. Krishna described the 4 types, then the 3 lower types. But what Krishna wants us to be like Mahatmas, like when we come to Krishna, we don't want anything from Krishna. We want to do worship for the sake of devotional service. And think about it, the rasa, the nectar that you would get, because you are just doing this because just to simply please Krishna and no other motive. And once we know Krishna is pleased, or any of the people in that knowledge, they are pleased, they would automatically give you mercy. In this instance, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, he used to always give us an example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one in the center. We worship them because he is meant to be the combined form of Krishna and Radha, golden avatar, we call him. So he used to always say, like, if it's a king, and king has got lots of jewels, right, on him, and if somebody sat on the roadside, and if king feels that he wants to give him something, who can stop king? It's just mercy, right? So similarly, when Krishna wants to give us something, irrespective of who they are, nobody can stop. Nobody can stop. Even if somebody upsets you here, there, everywhere, you don't stop coming because Krishna's still here. He loves you. Why should we let anybody come between us and Krishna? I wouldn't allow that, irrespective of who he is. All these people on big posts, small posts, rich, this, in the end, what do they give you? Anything? Somebody who wants to give you, which is like your guru is like your dad, he becomes like a father who's like guiding you. He wants to give you this knowledge which can actually take you not from the birth, one birth. I may have become however many births beforehand. We've all studied incarnation now. We know science is also accepting these things. So we don't actually keep going into the cycle of all of these births after births after births. Let's take control of our life in this lifetime. And I kid you not, when I first started coming here, I used to hear the lectures and I used to think, I wonder what is that? How would I know what way to go? They used to talk about your goal should be this, your path is this, prayojana, and all these things, words. And I never thought I would ever be able to until I picked up this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is. You start reading it and then you realize, oh, there's help outside, because not everything that you read you can understand. But very kindly, we know that we have got, we have got lots of people around us who can then assist us. And what one of the verses that I want to read, and this is the books they give you. I'm in school of Bhakti Vaibhav, or they also do Bhakti Shastri, where they teach you 5 most important, including Bhagavad Gita. So here, this one verse which says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadevar Hidayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Sham Sundar Achinte Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So finishing off with this, the translation reads, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Sham Sundar Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their hearts of heart, with the eye of devotion tinged with salve of love. So as long as we can cultivate that love, there is no reason why we would not, be learning things ourselves. We can only try, and the rest is up to Krishna. He would make, arrangements for you. And there's one more. Ayur harati ve pumsa udyan asta cha yan asu tasyarte yat kshano nita uttam shloke vartaya. So they said, both by rising and setting of the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of all good personality of Godhead. So everybody else is going to be decreasing their life, whereas we are sat here, we're listening, we're talking about Krishna. We are going to be increasing our life, because that's what Krishna is saying in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.17. So there's so many pluses if you just add Krishna to your life. And thank you so much. Ideally, I should ask you if there's any comments or questions. They'll be doing Aarti at 7. So we've got a few minutes. If anybody got pressing questions, then I can try and answer. But thank you so much for your kind attention. I really appreciate it. And especially you. You've been sat there since I started. What's your name? Kunal. Thank you, Kunal. And of course, you there and all the others who've been here at the back. Is there any questions, clarifications? No? Okay, we're going to be doing Aarti at 7. So let's just put our hands up in the air and let's just try and remember Krishna, because there's mantra here, isn't it? The 16-letter mantra. Who's going to tell me? Come on, start me off. It starts with Hare Krishna. Good. Krishna. Come on, louder, please. Hare Hare. And hear it this time. Again, please lead loudly. Hare. And one more time, 3 is the greatest, isn't it? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Please, please, please make sure you hold on to this feeling. The peace of mind, the feeling you've got in your heart, the goodness that you feel, all these things you can't see, but it's with you, it's within you. When you leave temple, realize why you come here, and please keep coming. Thank you so much again. Hare Krishna.
ठीक है ठीक है Shri Gaura Nitai ki Gaur Premanande. So we'll start the Gaura Aarti. The wordings is on the top right hand side on the screen, and we can follow the lead singer. Thanks. Ki bajayo jayo Gaura Chandere Aarati ko sobha की बजायो जयो गोरा चांदे रे आरती को शोभा ज्ञानावितातावाने जग मन लोभा ज्ञानावितातावाने जग मन लोभा अखिल